everyone. Welcome to another Neo, East, and Jam show. My name is Neo. We have East.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
We have Jam.
Welcome to our party. And we have what's your name?
And we have Liz. Back for a second time.
Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, happy. Hello.
And we can hear her this time.
Yeah.
Yes, my microphone is much better. Thanks to Mr. Jam Julius. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Jam.
All right, funky music.
So we're four friends from high school. Very different opinions, different takes on everything from politics, health, pop culture, sport, you name it.
Chicken.
Yeah. Chickens as well.
Chicken.
We don't eat chickens.
They're evil.
Today's show is a really good one. We have another Shhmokin Hot Topics with Jam. We'll quickly go through some of the hot topics from the past week. Then we have a segment we're calling Help Me Understand Something, and we're talking about the silent victims of coronavirus, domestic abuse. And then at last, we'll have East not trying to start anything, but he'll be trying to start something. We'll see what he starts. Now,
You want to be starting something? That's to be starting something.
That's right.
You want to be starting something?
All right.
Sorry.
How about that?
Now, contrary to the name, all right, one thing we don't do is we don't cuss. Now, a couple of us have broken the rule already.
Yeah.
But Jam, what's supposed to happen?
Explain cussing.
Whoa.
Explain cussing.
Jam's going to explain that to you.
Yes. So, cussing, as the word is defined in Bullfinch's Anthology of Mythology, which has nothing to do with cussing, is the cussing is when you drop one of them words you ain't supposed to say. Now, y'all know most of them words because your parents called you that as you were growing up. But there are a few we have added to that list, as in the Anacostia team, football team that represents DC.
Oh.
Yeah, they're on that list.
Yeah.
And there are a few other words on that list.
The Anacostia team.
Yeah, the Anacostia. I can't think of their names right now.
Although they're in Landover now, but you know.
The Landovers.
Landovians.
Anyway, so it goes. If you cuss, every time you cuss, $10 to the magical pot. The third time you cuss, same show. The rest of the team, voila, they get to add an ode to the dictator. President of the country. In your name, you have to keep that posted for a day. And that love letter that we'll write. Can't wait, Liz. I mean East. I mean Neo. I mean not me. All right. Anyway, that's it. That's it for the cussing.
All right, cool. So, hold on one second. Let's see.
We are keeping track of the cussing. That's what they're doing.
I was gonna say, yeah. Who's in the lead? Let's go back to that.
Oh, I think I'll put up 0.
How am I in the lead?
One show. How you?
How am I in the lead?
How are you in the lead?
Damn lie.
Oh,
But
wow.
East is trying to catch up on you.
Yeah, he's got you.
No, I'm not trying to catch up.
You're almost there. All right. So, got a question for you guys. I want to let the audience kind of get to know us a little bit. Now, we are asking that anyone from our class, Wilson Tigers, posts any pictures from the yearbook of us that they can find. Particularly Liz. We want pictures of Liz from high school.
What?
Yes.
But not the rest of us, because we didn't go to high school.
But here's a question for you. So, what's the most embarrassing fashion trend that you used to rock?
Is this for me personally?
All of you.
Yeah, why not?
Um, do I have any? Let me think. Because I've always been fashion forward.
We can help you out. We can help you out.
We can change that.
Oh, what you got? What you got? I'm trying to think. Probably cross colors, maybe one. Or remember in high school we all wore used jeans or Major Damage? Do you remember that?
Major Damage. Yeah, I remember that. I think I remember that.
Vaguely.
Yeah, that was kind of embarrassing. Like, you paid a whole bunch of money for ripped up clothes that had used written across the back, across your behind.
You did.
All right.
Mine would have been the tail. I rocked the tail for a little while. It went across. And although
that's right.
my sexy figure did not need any
Black
help.
boy mullet. So that's the black boy mullet.
Nah, that's the shade.
That one.
I claim the mullet.
Black boy mullet.
All right. East.
I'm trying to think because I was pretty conservative in terms of dress. Gosh. I guess if anything, wasn't there skids?
What? Skids.
I thought there was
Those
a
pants?
designer.
I think skids were pants,
I think so
Yeah.
too.
right?
I think so too.
Yeah,
So they were like
I
hammer
mean-
pants almost.
Yeah. They
But they had
put East in the mix. Tell him East.
yeah, right. They had me in the mix. I think I had a pair of those.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know
So
why,
you were-
but I think I had a pair of those.
All right. So mine was cross colors. I used to wear these huge bright blue cross colored jeans, and I thought they were fashion forward, so I wore them a lot. Like a lot.
Listen, I remember there was a kid in our school, Daniel DeForest, who wore the same clothes for 2 weeks.
Did you just blow?
Did not understand why.
Wow.
I'm just
Whole
saying,
company.
he wore the same outfit for 2 weeks. And then when someone asked him why, well, I didn't include the middle name, but when someone asked him why, he said he got paid $1,000 to do that. I was like, well, I don't know, $1,000 in high school, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
I'm looking at D's online talking about these Bart Simpson T-shirts. That's what
I just rocking the PJs. So talk about
PJs.
Hi, DJ.
rock that with some macaroni and cheese from up there on Georgia. Shoot. Tell Logic.
All right. So let's just jump into some smoking hot topics. How about that?
Sounds good to me. All right, y'all. Fresh out the bull. Fresh out the bull. Fresh out the bull. All right. First off, anybody get to see? Look up in Michigan. I know that's y'all's favorite hanging spot.
Hey,
There were
man.
some protesters who showed up in the Capitol.
Look at
not
those
just outside the
fine
Capitol this
citizens.
time.
Those
And,
fine, upstanding citizens.
Fine. All of them. Upstanding as can be. Definitely not some of the Black Panthers at all unaccosted. Not even a thought crossing my mind.
I mean, what is there to say? Thug life, terrorists, anti-Americans. What? Take your pick. Oh, I forgot. They're white. My bad.
There you go. There you go.
She's right
My
there.
bad.
Get your spray paint. Get your spray paint out. It's different. It's different.
So that makes them
Now,
patriots.
we all know if that had been Peanut and them from down the block, what would have happened. We
So,
all
it is
know those brothers from down the block what would have happened.
I don't know what you're talking about. We could walk in there. All four of us just walk up in there. AKs. Just make it happen. Let's do it.
AR-15 strapped up.
We can do it.
I think
Yeah.
I think
We couldn't even
SNL.
get out the car.
So we get out the block, it's a problem, you know.
Right.
But I think SNL summed it up best when they said, if you look at where they're located on the Michigan hand, it's right about.
Are we counting middle fingers? Wait a minute.
Is that on the list?
Yeah.
We think that one. We might have to add that to the list.
What does it mean?
We might have to add that to the list.
I think we could add it, but right now,
We're gonna have a discussion about that.
right now,
It's
like
like
Donald
hip
Trump
hop.
tax,
You can put your finger. The middle.
Like, Jen, you
Yeah.
did the
right now, like Donald Trump
Good
tax, it ain't on the list. It's not on the list.
I just think it's another example of the hypocrisy in this country about how people are treated based on the color of their skin. You know, you can be an activist and a patriot on one side, and then for the exact same action on the other side, if you happen to have brown skin, you are a thug, you are a terrorist. So it's just, you know, reality of, like James Brown said, living in America.
All right. Well, with that, let's move on to our favorite home team race. Home team football players. Justin Rohrwasser, or as I like to say, Justin, look at my supremacist tattoo. All right.
You know, there are a lot of Justins that are in trouble these days. You got Justin Timberlake cheating on his wife,
Are we talking
Justin
about?
Bieber admitting that he's a druggie and all that good stuff. The poor brother, do I think he's a racist? No. Do I think he was stupid? Yeah. I don't understand how he didn't know what the tattoo meant before the day he got drafted. So I don't necessarily buy that. But I chalk it up to just him being just dumb. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of black athletes have tattoos. They have no idea what they mean. Some of them don't mean anything. You look at all the black athletes that have alleged Chinese characters tattooed on their body. Come to find out, they mean absolutely nothing. I think he thought he was being cool, and now it has come back to bite him in the arse.
So, Jim, what's his last name?
His last name is Rowe. Oh, get him, Liz.
He said Jam, not Liz.
Okay, because you were all speaking.
Rohrwasser.
Will Roper?
And so what's wrong with this? What's wrong with the tattoo? Can you?
It represents. It's a symbol of a white supremacist group, or a Roman numeral.
3%er.
So
Yeah, they're called
that's a
the
bad
3%.
thing.
They're called the 3%ers, and they believe that only 3% of the colonists fought against the British during the Revolutionary War, and that the rest of us were just sitting up on our ass, our behind.
There it is! There it is!
Drop it.
Did we say that? Wait, we gotta look at the rules. Hold on, I'm looking at the rules. I think we said that was okay.
Well, he's looking at. They would consider themselves to be like modern day revolutionaries, and
Nope, it's one of those.
but now they fight against the government. You know, they believe that they are fighting against the U.S. government, which is tyrannical and fascist and all that good stuff. But they also don't like people who are not white. So that's a big thing.
Quick question.
I don't know how he escaped all of that, but
Quick question, Ms. Liz.
We
In the
can't
top
hear you.
3%, in the top 3%, did they include Christmas addicts?
Can we hear him?
In the top
can't hear
3%, did they include Christmas addicts?
Sorry, that was me playing Gaga.
Well, East, what's your take on it? You've been quiet.
I saw what he said. He said that he made a mistake. He claimed that he thought it was a homage to the early patriots. His claim, the early patriots of the American Revolution. So in his head, he rationalized it as paying paying homage to his military family. That was his spin on it. But he later found out. That the 3%ers were part of the alt-right group in Charlottesville that led to the death of Heather Heyer in Charlottesville.
But do we believe him?
I mean, my dad was a World War II vet. I have no 3% tattoos. I come from a military family. And I honestly, I wasn't really familiar with this organization at all. So I think, do I believe him? Not necessarily. I just think he was young and stupid and dumb.
Okay.
I don't understand though how, because he's had it since he was in high school. Like, how did this not get hyped up when he was at Marshall?
Right.
Well, see, here's the thing. He also resist programming is one of these chase you down and look at your social history groups, and they found that he has some social media history with Jordan Peterson, a transgender pronoun denouncer, and someone who also fights against the feminization of men, and some other similar groups that border on not friendly to groups that don't look white and male and hitting on women.
I mean, if you look at the rest of his tattoos, he's very American, which is great. But we know what that sometimes tends to mean.
I'd like to think my tats say I'm very American.
Liberty or death. I mean, I'm just saying. I don't know if I 100% believe that. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is it against the flag code to get the flag tattooed on your person?
No.
Like, is that against the rules? I know you're not supposed to wear it as, article of clothing. You're not supposed to use it as a towel. You're not supposed to, use it as underwear or anything like that, even though we see
wait. I'll be right back, y'all. Be right back.
I see people misuse it all the time. So I'm just wondering, is a tattoo of the flag against the flag code? But yeah, you look at him, he looks like he's patriotic, I guess, but you might want to look up the things that you have people put ink on your body, the images that they use. And so now he said he's going to cover it up, though. That's what he claims. He's going to cover it up.
Okay. That's
he has been shamed. He has been canceled. So he's going to cover it up.
All right. So we'll give him a little pass.
So,
no.
He plays for my favorite team, so of course he'll get a pass, like the rest of the team has gotten a pass before. Pass D. This is the edited version of what I was holding up before.
A Patriot for the Patriot, right? Patriots.
For the Patriots.
Yeah.
All right. Before we move on, I just want to update this a little bit. I'm sure we know what three means, right? What we know what three
that was
means?
same show.
How does he still have a zero?
So,
how does he get the finger? How does he still have a zero?
I mean, I agree with you, but it wasn't technically one of our.
How the president doesn't technically have to submit his taxes, although every other president has in the last 20, 30 years. Hey,
all right, so hold on.
Call Fifi.
Hey, Liz.
Call Fifi.
I thought at the beginning of the show it was 3 per episode.
Yes.
So it's 3 per episode?
My man Sheridan.
First off, his name is East. Back up
Why are you trying to find outs for her?
No, I'm about fairness.
Keep it legal. Keep your street legal. Keep your street legal.
So,
as the only other person with a strike against him. Of course.
I should have 0 then.
I know, that's what you want to have.
Thank you, Reverend Neo. Thank you.
All right, what's the next one? Go ahead.
All right. Has anybody been following Joe Biden? a busy, busy man with lots of busy, busy accusers. He got a second woman who spoke out in support of the lady of Tara Reid who accused him. She said she confirms that she was there at the time. She lived right next door to Biden. Your thoughts? Your thoughts?
I mean, was I the only person who initially, when they heard her name, they were thinking about the Sharknado girl, Tara Reid?
You were not. You were not. I got low.
Thoughts. You know, I never want to denounce what an alleged victim has to say. Someone who feels that they have been sexually assaulted, has sexually harassed, someone who wants to come forward and tell their story. I'm just not sure where this story was all of the years since then, especially when, you know, Obama chose him as his running mate, you know, and he was a vice president of this country for 2 years, or when Biden ran for president the first time.
She claimed that the reason she didn't bring it up because she really liked Obama and she didn't want to interfere with that. That's what she claims.
I mean, Obama couldn't pick another vice president candidate. But also too, her story keeps changing.
Yeah.
And so that kind of gives me pause. And again, I don't know what happened. At this point, I don't think that there's any evidence to prove one way or the other. I just wish her story was more consistent. Because initially when she told the story, it was one thing, and now it has gone to full finger penetration,
Right.
and which wasn't included in the original version, and it just keeps escalating.
Or the story
and
told. Sorry to cut you off, but she also told that same shoulder story to several people who originally heard the story. They even have a call. It's like her brother or someone. He confirmed the original story, and then he called back the newspaper or whoever. Like 30 minutes later, was like, "What I meant to say was, Scooby showed up," and it's like, "Come on, man! Like, can we get some?"
I don't. That's what gives me pause, really. But I mean, you know, I didn't want Joe Biden to be the Democratic representative to begin with, so we got what we got with that. But I mean, is he any different from what
That's a curse word.
have in the White House? What?
That's a curse word.
What's a
Didn't
curse
want Joe
word?
Biden to be. That counts as 5.
Oh, yeah. Asking him to heal. But anyway, is he any different from, you know, the current situation that we have in the White House, who still has charges or allegations pending against him, who paid off 2 porn stars and possibly a hooker in a pear tree, who cheated on his first wife with his second wife with the current wife? Like,
so that's the problem. The big problem with Democrats in general is that, you know, Republicans will stand by their candidate no matter what. I mean, Trump is a perfect example. I mean, he was a horrible candidate, horrible person, substantiated.
Advocating grabbing people by the pussy.
Right. So he basically admitted that's what he does. That he
Non-COVID greeting. Thank you.
So, the Democrats will let things like this derail them. You know,
Al Franklin. Yeah.
So, you know, you hold people accountable. Agreed. But the problem is you allow people like Trump to continue to get away with it and continue to hold power because morals and your moral high ground. So I'm not suggesting we let go of our moral high ground, but we do get distracted by things like this, especially when we know politically it's not unusual for someone to come out with a lie like that. I'm not saying she is lying, but it's not unusual.
But now's the time.
It also begs the question for Obama. It begs the question for Obama and his people. Did they not vet him when he was trying to choose, when he was looking into who would be his running mate? Like, did this not come up back then? Yeah. There are just so many questions that I have.
Well, my
then
thing is,
there are questions.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
just based off the Obama presidency, the 2 terms, there was, if I recall, not one scandal.
Right.
So I would think that, to your question, Liz, in terms of, because I thought about that too. How did Joe Biden go through the vetting process and this not come up? And I would think that Obama, being the first African American president, would vet everybody so thoroughly that if they would have had a hint that this was in Joe Biden's background, they would have cut him loose. So, and I'm not saying that, to everyone's point, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I wasn't there in '93, but the Joe Biden that I think he's even admitted to being is a touchy-feely, that kind of creepy uncle.
Well, have you seen Obama commented on that in one of his press dinners? He was like, you even get one of the Joe Biden shoulder rubs. I mean, I think that alone. But to your point, East, one of the things that that Obama, when he hit his second term, and they were trying to dethrone him, why didn't we hear about this then if it was such a problem?
Yeah.
There was no other scandals, so this would have been the news that would have been run with, but instead, crickets.
Yep.
Dead crickets, even. Like, come on.
What's the next one, Jim?
Oh, okay. Well, real quick, if I may. I mean, because they're trying to do the other side's kind of trying to do it, but it's whataboutism between Kavanaugh and Biden. The thing with Kavanaugh is they didn't even give it time for the full investigation to occur.
Right.
They've rushed through
They
it.
wouldn't investigate. They wouldn't interview people.
Right. So, it's to me, it's still apples to oranges because, I mean, right now they have time to investigate Tara Reid's story. Biden came out on Friday. He did give an interview. It was to me shaky. But
Joke.
but
I massage everybody. What?
I mean, he categorically denied the allegation. But Joe Biden's kind of his speech pattern, he kind of stammers, so he doesn't exude confidence all the time. But you can't. To me, you can't. I don't think that you can. You can, but I don't think you should compare Kavanaugh to Biden because Kavanaugh, they rushed that through, jammed it down people's throat, and ignored the investigatory process. Here, there's plenty of time between now and the November election to do a full investigation and to get to hopefully the bottom of what happened.
Okay.
Also, too, I think if there was any chance that he was going to pull back on his declaration that he was going to have a female running mate, I think that's out the window. I think now, to prove a point, he definitely has to pick a running mate. So he could say, hey, I respect women. I have a female running mate. I'm going to have a female VP. I wouldn't, sexually assault women because, look, I respect them. This is a part of my cabinet, a part of my administration. So there's just a lot at play here that is really unfortunate because I think it kind of changes the trajectory of any type of authentic campaign that he may have had in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
All right, what's the next one?
All right. Mr. Russian, everybody. All right, so is anybody familiar with Diamond and Silk? I mean, I know many of y'all have favorite Prince songs, but this is a little different. We have Diamond and Silk.
Cubic zirconia and polyester. Them sisters. That's
First
Travesty.
You mean the name?
What happened?
Did you look
Diamond
up their mom, the prophetess?
What you want to talk about? Okay, so Diamond and Silk have a slightly sordid history. They were raised by a prophetess who did a little televangelizing, but that doesn't stop them from being fervent and believable supporters of Trump. I mean, does it? So, I mean, they're still. I think, as far as Trump supporters go, they are everything you hope for in sincerity. I mean, in sincerity and honesty.
Just cooling and shucking and jiving. Woo!
Like
Minstrel show, right?
They're like the HBCUs to me when they went there and they showed up to get their money, fake money, whatever.
Ooh, you better tell it. You better tell it.
So Fox News hired them and fired them.
Yep.
Yeah. So what do you think? Like, what do you think their platform is now, or how they are going to move forward? You think they're still going to stay, on the same path, or are they going to try to come back home? Are they the prodigal daughters?
Did you say Steve
Are they
Harvey?
going to try to come home?
Did you say Steve Harvey? Did you say
Omarosa?
Well, Trump is still advocating for them, so, and they have supporters within his base.
And
Because they like the minstrel show. They like to see people
Black
shut
for
dance.
Trump. All three of them.
So why did they get fired?
I
Why
don't
did
know.
they get fired? I think it had related to them making disparaging comments about COVID-19 and the current
Oh, that's
situation.
right. Yes.
Yeah, they were giving wrong information about coronavirus.
Well,
Listen,
is
I
that the
say
only reason?
I think so, but the black folks always get fired first. So
Oh yeah, that's true.
I mean, Hannity did it. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It didn't happen for real.
I just say, as a community, we need to get together. Gather up cubic zirconia and polyester, gather up Kool-Aid, gather up Candace Owens, and just kick them out. Get out. Get out.
Their cards
All
were
of
already
them.
revoked. What more do you want? What more do you want?
Ugh.
So
You want to have a ceremony or something?
right. I mean,
Yes.
like an
I'll burn some
anti-graduation.
sage. I'll burn some sage. Get
Like
all of
they
those
want-
toxins out of the black community.
They walk up to the stage and just walk backwards, back across it, and you just take paper from them as they.
Or like, remember on Game of Thrones when they burned the little girl at the stake?
Uh-huh.
We could do that.
Oh, and then we get like we burn it.
serious.
And then we get like a good
Dracarys! Dracarys! Get the dang joggins in. Dracarys!
You
How
serious?
about can we burn pictures instead of people?
Yeah, a little safer. A little safer.
Oh, you're so nice.
Some effigies maybe.
I don't want anybody to go to jail now for this.
Right.
I mean, I just think of full exorcism. Like, come on. They got
Maybe
some
just some holy
demons.
water, and we go around their houses a few times. How about that?
Holy water and sage, we got it.
Right,
We
right.
got it. We got a plan.
All right, Jam. I think we got time for one more.
We got one more. Well, I guess I hit on this one. It's mask time at the OK Corral. We know Pence did some visiting, maskless, only a hospital with COVID patients. Well, he likes to give kisses, to guys because he can't be in a room alone with ladies. But just saying, your thoughts on that? And other Negroes with no mask?
I blame, well, for the Penn situation, I blame the Mayo Clinic. Like, that, the onus was on them
Yes.
to tell him, no, you cannot come through here without a mask. But, they acquiesced to what he wanted to portray. He said that he thought the people would be more inspired if they saw his face. I'm like, dude, ain't nobody looking at you. You are not Boris Kojo. You are not fine. So I don't understand that type of hubris. But then you see the next appearance that he made, because he got so much backlash. The next appearance that he made, he did wear a mask. So he's just.
They always find ways to spin their idiotic behavior, and to say something. I want to look him into the eyes. That's dumb, but they had to come up with something, so that's what they came up with.
I did want to get one more in real quick though. Sorry to sideline, guys, before we switch topics. Trump's friend Roger Stone is making noise again. He does not like his trip. Personally, I think he'd do wonderful as the new Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin. Your thoughts, please. He did write 200. He did create 200 Facebook accounts to defend himself across Facebook. He's a hero. He's a massless hero. And a penguin.
How do you even create what?
How do you do that? I don't know.
Time on his hands.
I guess.
I mean, he's bucking for a pardon from Trump. I mean, he was on Fox News talking about how he's in the age group. He's in the high risk age group. He's got asthma. He's like, I'm a non-violent offender, so he should pardon. Come on, man. Like,
it's that's all he's saying. But with that,
just think people like this. Your government, your people. I'm going
James
back.
people.
I'm
We're
going
gonna give him a
back.
jam.
I'm going back.
yep.
We're gonna give him a jam.
Diamond Silk, come over to my party. There's room for you. Oswald, come on. The joke is here. Anyway, that's it for Shhmokin and the Hot Topics.
Smoking Hot. Well, then it's time to roll into some shout outs. What we got going on? Got a lot of people on today.
Yeah, we do. First
Moving.
off,
Oh, good.
I'd like to give a special shout out to Terrell Gardner. Miss you, man. Happy birthday from the Wilson crew.
Rest in peace, Terrell. Rest in peace, Terrell. Love you,
His birthday
man.
was yesterday.
I believe it was yesterday. So definitely miss you, Terrell.
Yeah, R.I.P.
We got Dion. We've got Aji, Reuven, Michelle. A lot of people on the day.
Ty, as usual, thank you much, lady.
We got Rachel Reinhardt.
What's up, Rachel? Give me some of them vegetables.
I think Mike's up there watching. Antoine, I know you watching too. You should say something. What's up, King?
I see some people posting some pictures. I'm gonna have to get them on somehow. They're actually posting them on our personal pages. We need to get them to go to www.nej.show. See if you can get it on there, or if that doesn't work, try Twitter at the NEJ Show. All right, guys. I want to get those pictures. I want to show them. I'll find a way before the show ends. I'm gonna let you know. Find a way.
Yes. Liz it up, y'all. Liz it up.
Liz it up. I like that term. Liz it up.
You like that. All right, so that's it for shout outs. All right, well, let's go. Let's move on. All right, I'm gonna need you guys to help me understand something. All right. With this coronavirus, everybody's stuck at home, and we are dealing with some other victims that we may not have considered, we may not have thought about. What I'm calling the silent victims of coronavirus, and that's domestic abuse. Like I say, people are stuck at home, nowhere to go with their abusers, and the call-in rates to the police have gone up drastically worldwide. So it's not even just a U.S. issue; it's worldwide. So I'd like to start off with Liz. Get your thoughts on what's going on and what we're dealing with.
So when we first started adhering to the stay-at-home orders, the self-quarantines, the lockdowns, this honestly was something that I really didn't consider, really didn't think about. It wasn't until I saw, I think, a meme actually on social media where people were making fun of the fact that, if you're at home, if you were getting your ass beat before, imagine that, it's going to be 10 times worse now. And then that's when I had to step back and think this is really going to exacerbate the situation. And slowly but surely, we started to see news articles, news reports about domestic violence hotlines, receiving, twice, two, three times, four times the normal calls, police departments receiving more calls, 911 receiving more calls. And it's something that's very unfortunate, but it makes sense if you think about it. Think about the fact that even when we were not on lockdown and we had the capability to at least get some space from another. If we're living in a domestic violence situation, you could have had maybe 6-7 hours without your partner being there, without your partner being in the same room with you, or without being under the watchful eye of your partner. Now, if you are at home and you're following, the quarantine standards, you're at home with your partner, you may have kids that are, for whatever reason, inadvertently agitating the situation. And it's tough. I think people's emotions are at an all-time high. I think people are definitely more irritable than they normally would be under these circumstances. And so that causes people to lash out. And one of the saddest things about this is that whereas when we weren't in quarantine, when we weren't staying at home, you may have been able to tell or suspect that your coworker or your friend was being abused, that they were in a bad situation. But now, because everyone's inside and we're not interacting with one another, we don't have any face-to-face contact. There are no in-person social exchanges. We can't see it. We don't know what's going on at home. And so I think there are a lot of people that are suffering now. I think there are a lot of people who are at home, who are under a tremendous amount of stress, and who don't have an outlet. They have nowhere to go. And so this, I think, is a time where I think it's important really to try to reach out and just listen, because they may not tell you right off the bat, but there are things that you can listen to in their conversations, kind of context clues or hints that people will give you that will let you know that they are struggling, that they are in some type of distress or duress at home. And it's really sad, but it really is something to consider, to think about. It's not funny, it's not a joke, it's not a meme. And I shudder to think about what a lot of these victims, both female and males are also victims of domestic violence. So I just shudder to think about what people are going through right now in their homes with the doors closed and they can't get out.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty rough. I mean, when you look at the economic pressures that people are under, so, if, for example, there's a breadwinner who's also an abuser, they're dealing with those pressures, the financial pressures, no jobs, etc. So, I mean, it's really worrisome situation. Jam, I'd like to get your take on it.
There's a bunch of things I'm thinking about, but one of the first things I wanted to share was that it's such a concern worldwide that Greenland halted alcohol sales because they were so concerned about the increase in once schools were out, because they were so concerned about the increase of domestic violence against children. It's one of the known facts is that anytime families are at home together for holidays, vacations, anytime where they're together for too long, things like this do increase, and it's a lot to even begin to. It's not so much hard to get your head around, but really to understand how to reach out to people and find a way through these problems is one. It's so much to begin to comprehend. Even it feels small, like I'm making it smaller just talking about one aspect of it. But as a non-professional, my major concern is knowing that there are outlets, or trying to make sure you can create that space to try to diffuse to some extent where you can, situations where you can. But I defer to East as a professional who works with a lot of this stuff, to get his opinion and thoughts on it.
Yeah, East, you've done this as a career. You're in the mental health field. You know, we're worried about people stuck in these situations. Can you give us an idea of examples of what people might be dealing with, and then also suggestions as to how to kind of get out of that?
Yeah. So one thing that I found regarding the aspect of domestic violence is there's something called the power and control wheel, and a part of that there's 8 pieces of that power and control wheel, and a couple of the aspects have been touched on by Jim and Liz, which are the economic abuse of the abuser, and if you were to bring it up on the wheel, it lists the person that's abused as her, and the primary abuser as him. But like Liz said, men are abused too, and women do abuse their partners also. So I don't want people to think that when they see this diagram that is gender biased. The biggest issue going on, as Liz stated, is the isolation piece. At least during non-COVID times, the person who was victimized had 6 to 8 to 10 hours potentially to go get help,
Right.
to seek out assistance. They had an opportunity maybe when there was money coming in to develop a plan, maybe siphon off some money to develop a plan to leave, to exit the situation. And I think that's the biggest issue now, is that with the lack of resources coming into certain households, it's highly difficult to develop a plan. Also, I was reading, and I believe in the New York Times, that they said that there was actually a reduction in domestic violence calls. However, that doesn't mean that domestic violence is decreased. Actually, they're more concerned, because they figured to the point that people don't have the ability to even call,
Yep.
because the abuser's there, and even more controlling, even more isolating, more intimidating, more threatening. So
Yeah, that was one of the biggest concerns that they updated. I was actually going to bring that up. I'm glad you did. But, especially in places like New York, I think Austin, there was a report in Austin where the calls for domestic violence dropped recently. And
Yeah.
it really worries me that that's more because it's taken a foothold, or they feel like they can't get help. And that's a big concern, right, East?
And I think to Jam's point too, that I found interesting is, I think Jam said Greenland, they cease alcohol sales. However, in this country, alcohol is liquor stores are essential. At least in this area, I've seen all liquor stores remain open, and gun sales went up also. So you're kind of developing a powder keg in certain households, and the government seems unfamiliar or unwilling to want to invest in trying to find a solution. Also, too, quite honestly, I don't think there's enough women in pertinent positions to help the government officials make this a priority.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at people. Yeah. Go ahead, Jay.
Go, Jam.
I'm sorry, I wanted to jump in real quick. I'd say directly to that point, I think the administration we have right now is damn near apathetic. It's just not something that, not only is it not on their radar, it's just not a concern. And to expand more on some of the ideas that we're talking about, I'm gonna cite Malaysia. I think I mentioned it before in an earlier episode of ours. Their ministry had released an advisory for COVID, and part of it, which I still think is absolutely crazy, is they said the ministry also advised women to refrain from being sarcastic if they ask for help with household chores.
Wow.
Now, there's a lot more to the statement, but it is so randomly asinine that it just adds to the whole idea that there's, and although that's outside of our country, that there's just no concept of anything beyond our normal reality, and that there really needs to be, because people there's just that one. This is how things are going to be, and these things may happen, but they happen outside. We don't have to deal with them, and I think that's just so apparent in our culture, in our country right now. But even with the gun toters that we have pictures of, it's like these guys are allowed to stomp in here. What do they do? Where does that energy go? What are we really saying when we don't address those things as safety issues?
I think well, at least both of you guys are aware that growing up, I was in an abusive situation, and I can't imagine being locked up in that situation now, for months at a time with no way to get out. I think because when you're locked up, the energy of the abuser becomes a powder keg. Not just the energy within the house, but the abuser can't release their energy or their negative energy in other ways. Like if you have, this is an extreme case, but if you have serial killers typically don't bother their families, or I won't say typically, but if they have families, they may avoid their families, but then take out those negative energies and thoughts on other people. Same thing with pedophiles. A lot of times they don't do it within their family, but then they go after others. But now all that negative energy is locked up in one confined space, and it's scary to think. Liz?
I agree. I also grew up in a household that had an abusive parent, and I can't stress enough how stifling it is to have that energy surrounding you every day in the home. Whenever my mom worked crazy hours, but whenever she wasn't in the house, it was almost like, okay, you can breathe. I can finally breathe. Yeah. I don't have someone over my shoulder watching me being oppressive, yelling and screaming and telling me to do these things. Or there are instances in which she would get so angry and frustrated that she wouldn't speak to me for a week. And so she thought that was a punishment. I thought it was a relief, like, oh my God, yes. You stay on your side, I'll stay on my side. So like you said, I can't imagine being in that situation now where we are almost forced to be in a situation where we have limited access to going outside. A lot of people no longer are working. They're at home. They're furloughed. Then there's the stress of trying to maintain some type of educational environment for children who are in the home. Right. And so you might even have a parent who is jealous because mommy or daddy, they're now focusing more on the children and their education versus the other spouse who feels like, I need you to concentrate on me. It's a lot that goes into it. And like I said, I could not imagine being confined in a space like that under these terms. And you often hear when people talk about domestic violence, about being abused, the first thing someone says on the outside is, well, why didn't you leave? Why didn't you leave? Well, now we're in situations where people really can't leave.
Can't leave.
There is no place to go.
Yep.
And so that just makes it worse. That heightens the level of anxiety. I will say that as best as I have been able to read out from certain friends who are in these situations, there still are people that you can talk to. You can still call a hotline and talk to someone. There are doctors, there are psychologists, psychiatrists who are holding virtual sessions online. If you can find a small space, even in the bathroom, the shower, if you can find a small space to have just a couple of minutes, maybe a half hour to yourself, where you can talk to someone and try to seek out help, or someone that can give you some advice to talk you through whatever is going on in your situation. But hopefully people will at least try to seek out something, and so that they don't feel so isolated and so alone.
All right, East, I'm going to give you the last thought. We're running a little long time, and I know we had this graphic that you wanted to go over. So the most important thing I want to ask is, what are some things that people should be looking for people who are being abused? Maybe family is aware. I know everyone's locked up, but what are some things that people should be looking for? And then, how do you know? And then what does someone like that do? Liz already gave some advice, but what do you do? I'm going to just put this graphic up for you real quick.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the difficult part, is what to do. I know everybody here, of course, would like to do something about domestic violence, would love for it to be eliminated. But what to do in this point in time? I was reading that France, they developed almost like an underground railroad, where women who go to the pharmacy, they have a code word. They utter this code word to the pharmacist, and then the pharmacist is supposed to, almost like a mandatory reporter, call the police, and then there's a protocol in place.
Wow.
Also, I believe France and or Spain have developed, they've have hotels, especially for domestic violence survivors, to go to leave their situation, to remove themselves from their abusive situations. As a family member, or just as a concerned friend, reach out, especially if you know that other person has had issues in the past. Continue to reach out to that person. If the person you're trying to reach out to is always busy or can't come to the phone, that's a form of isolation. So be on the lookout for a person who's trying to isolate their significant other from friends and family. Also, when you are able to speak, if you're able to speak to that person, if you always hear a whole bunch of yelling in the background, or some type of tactics of intimidation, listen out for that. And if the person you're speaking to is trying to excuse the abuser's behavior, be on the lookout for that. Listen out for that. And if you hear that, make a phone call. I think it's always better to be on the safe side.
So make a phone call to the police. Just clarify.
Phone call to the police. I believe there's also a hotline.
Yeah, I'll put the hotline up at the end.
A domestic violence hotline number, so that that person can maybe have some resources available in that area to maybe get away. But it takes a little bit of just paying attention, staying in communication with your friends, especially those that you knew were in a compromised situation even before COVID.
Okay.
And just try to maintain that contact.
Okay.
And if you can't maintain that contact, I would recommend calling that hotline number.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that information. So I do want to put up the information for the hotline. So if anyone is in danger or feel they're in danger or victims of domestic abuse, please reach out. I suggest you call 911 immediately first. But if you want to speak anonymously, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That number is 1-800-799-7233, or you can text Love Is to 22522. And actually, while I was on this site, they actually showed me a graphic saying that they were monitoring my web traffic and sent me a little option to give them a note, which was really good. So anyway, so any victims out there, please reach out, please get help. All right, so let's move on to our last segment. Not trying to start anything, but
I ain't trying to start nothing.
Payroll.
All right. Hopefully, try to lighten the mood up a little bit.
You can do it. We have faith in you.
We'll try. I heard Diddy talking about holding his vote hostage because he's trying to get
Who?
Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, government name Sean Combs.
Lil Diddy.
Yeah, right. So he said that he's willing to hold his vote hostage if Joe Biden doesn't make more of an appeal to African Americans to get their vote.
Okay.
And I'm struggling with this because I ain't trying to start nothing, but I don't know if this is the time for this, Diddy. Like, we gotta.
Thank you.
I understand his point, but we gotta get rid of this dude.
Yes.
Right. I'm calling bullshiners. It's just not the time. Like, really? Oh, okay. When you gonna tell me I need to change the oil when the brakes are out? Shut up.
Or it just speaks to, it begs the question of where are you all the other 364 days out of the year on the political front?
That's great. Thank you.
The general election is not the only time that we should be concerned about politics. It's not the only time when we should be voting. There are so many things going on in our communities that we need to stand up, get involved with our city council, get involved with our mayors. But I guess that doesn't appeal to him, living all the way out in Malibu or the Palisades or whatever mansion he's holed up in, with how many, chicas for the evening. But it's, Dickie, you have a voice. And I think you can use it in a much better way than, like Sheridan said, to try to hold your vote hostage right now. I mean, all things considered, okay, let's say you don't vote. I'm not even sure that you voted in the last election. But let's say you don't vote. Your one vote ain't going to mean nothing. And if you are making this proposal to Joe Biden, did you give a list of demands? Like, what is it exactly?
Yeah, what are you looking for? Yeah.
Done. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So again,
he just says do something for black people. That doesn't say anything.
What? You ask me what I want Joe to do? No. Ain't nobody asked me.
P. Diddy has always been about the shine and not about what's actually there underneath the shine. That is a given. Yeah. I mean, come on. P. Diddy shows up, you're already blown up. He just wants a little bit of yours. Yeah. I'm just saying.
For all we know, he wants Joe Biden to invest in Ciroc. Give him a check for his business, and that's it.
My take is we just can't get distracted, people. I mean, Trump has to get out of office. I'm sorry. Trump has to go. No distractions. Right. Just make it happen. If Biden is the way, and he's not great, he's not a perfect candidate, we get it. But we have an extreme situation right now where we have probably the worst president in the history of the country, if not at least the second worst. We have to get him out. Whatever we have to do, get him out. Let's get Joe Biden elected and just make it happen.
And Neil, no distractions. Like, we go off on a tangent. Like, Democrats always follow the shiny object.
Yes.
Democrats can't stay locked in on the goal. Republicans, to their credit, they know what they want, and they're bulldogs about getting what they want politically. You know, back in 2010, they got gerrymandering. They gerrymandered the heck out of some districts. They got their judges in. They're on the way to getting Roe v. Wade overturned. I mean, these are tenets within the conservative movement, within the Republican Party, that they've stood by for 20, 30, 40 years until this moment. And Democrats, we get sidetracked for Democrats get sidetracked for sexual abuse allegations. One, they get sidetracked when somebody like Sean Combs comes out and says, "Well, I'm holding my vote hostage," and you got some people who was like, "Oh, well, Diddy's holding his vote hostage, so I'm not going to vote either." Then we're going to end up with this mess for 4 more years. Like you said, Neo.
I think it's because
you sounded. Excuse me, y'all. I'm saying you sounded a lot like what was it, 2016 when it was Hillary versus Bernie, and Bernie was like, "I'm holding it back. I'm not going to give my endorsement till I have to. You ain't going to make me do it." And everybody who was following was like, Bernie. "I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it." And that's how we got where we are. Like people,
Bernie was invaluable.
Right. I still remember reading online, like the day or two afterwards, and people were like, "I didn't vote, and I'm glad I didn't vote." And everybody's like, "We got Trump. Are you happy with this? Good God, man!"
I think one of the things, the Republican Party, is run like almost a mob, almost like organized crime.
Yes.
Where, like Sheridan said, they focus in on the issues and they don't let go. They keep that foot on the neck until they get their demands met. Whereas, the Democratic Party is just that, a party. It's like, okay, let's just plan this cookout. That's it. No one's ever serious about anything. It's always disorganized, and we don't stay focused. And so I need somebody to just go tell Diddy, go on back to your harem. We got this.
All right. So we come to the last part of our show. I promised you pictures, and I have them. So we're gonna do as part of our shout outs. We're gonna show these pictures right here. All right, let me bring them up. All right, here we go.
I don't see no pictures.
We're about to see some pictures.
Oh, wow. That was wasn't it?
All right, let's pull them up. Let's see what we got here. See if I can pull them up. I can't pull them up.
Rachel, I'm gonna give you Rachel.
Oh.
That's Jam.
What up, Mikey P? What up, Mikey P? Oh, come in.
Who's this?
Look at that. Got the same hair, honey.
You know what that is.
The same hair.
Good old Liz. Alright, let's see what else we got. Uh-oh. Another picture of Liz. Here we go.
Oh, wow.
I thought you didn't take pictures in high school.
Naomi took that picture of me.
Right. That looked like a sneak attack.
Mouse.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Oh, wow. We got me right there.
Kalita Boyd.
Is that East right there? Why you keep picking up Kalita Boyd?
That is the whole crew.
I'm not picking
Hey, vote for Pedro.
There's Jam right there. Look at that.
Vote for Pedro.
Avi.
That's the only known relationship now.
What are you talking about?
Let's see. We got Avi and Manford.
We got everybody in that picture. Let's see what we got. Man, Rachel hooked us up. Oh, this is the card club. Oh, yeah. We talked about last week. That's how we used to do Doggin's class.
Look at Damien in them shorts. My goodness.
Are those shorts legal?
Look at that mustache, man. That mustache right there.
Tilden with the cut. Woo. I'm the king. High top fade.
That was an Ali grew.
Ali Gordon.
Yep. Oh, here we go.
Indeed.
Aww.
Good
What's his
prom.
name?
Easton Jam. Look at that.
Oh,
What's that other guy's name?
I forget his name.
yeah, I forgot to.
We gotta get rid of this. It was up there too long. Wait a minute. That was up there way too long. Why are we laughing at this?
Yes.
Alright.
You got that man cream?
Hey, make it loose.
That's
like
like
a
before
kid
you were
up in
about
here.
to join up or something, looking all serious.
This is what we've been waiting for.
I hate it. So they picked the picture, the one picture where I wasn't smiling.
It's a great picture.
Yeah, that's
Look
definitely
at the
your
pearls.
Had the pearls.
Professor!
Jam.
What?
Aww.
Let's go. Let's go.
We got here. Oh, we got Liz. Is that Grace?
wow.
Yeah, that's Jam in the background. Odyssey of Money.
Is that Mr. Martell?
That is Mr. Martell, Mr. Super Ranger.
Yes.
I think that's it. That's all we got. Oh no, not
Oh, go for Pedro. Go for Pedro.
Oh my god, that's like the most embarrassing picture in the yearbook. We're in a bolo. This is when I thought I was part Native American.
Oh, I forgot about the bolo.
When I thought I was part Native American, yeah, no, that's not the case.
Oh.
Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. We're done.
Esteban Seagal.
Alright, Jam, you got any last shout outs before we close it out?
Oh, I got a shout out. Let's see what we got. Let me give another shout out to the crew who've been talking with IG, Michelle. Oh, Robin. I almost forgot you. But I
Robin
did.
shot all the way in England.
What? There's some chips, lady. There's some chips for us. IG updating your restaurant on Georgia by the Walmart. So shout out to Reuben. Shout out to, did I miss anybody, y'all? Got Tommy,
Look like you got everybody.
Carla. Appreciate y'all.
Alright, guys. Well,
And of course,
another great show. Loved having the show with you guys, especially Liz. Thanks for joining us. I think Liz is going to be joining us next Sunday as well. Is that right?
Depends on gotta get this hair together.
Your hair is fine.
hey,
All right, guys.
this little girl, same haircut, no problem.
Don't forget to follow us, like, subscribe, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, at The NEJ Show. Make sure you're following. All right, guys. Also, www.nej.show. Great show.
Good to see you, Tigers.
All right. See you actually Wednesday, 8 p.m.
8 o'clock.
without
Have
Liz.
a good week, everyone. Be safe, and stay your asses at home.
That's right.
Hey, that's another one right there.
Oh, that's two. Oh, she made it though. She got her two.